Tommy Tontoulouris runs a food shop in Astoria, Queens in New York City. It's a family business where 80% of his products are imported from Greece. While business is still good, Tommy admits the eurozone crisis has cut into his profits, but he especially worries about what is happening in Greece.
The whole government thing. Yeah, how they bury the country. That's just very depressing. Very depressing. Because we really don't see anything on the news here until you get these phone calls and these emails, and you can actually hear it from them. You can hear how desperate they are down there. Everybody's emailing me. Everybody. Even people that I don't even know, for work. Yeah, I have doctors sending me their resumes. Doctors.
Astoria is home to one of America's largest Greek populations and a symbol of Greek immigrants coming to New York in search of a better life. But in the past 30 years, the number of Greeks here has shrunk. One reason, a return to the homeland after Greece joined the European Union in 1981. But today, with Greece on the edge of economic and social chaos, many Greeks who left America now want to come back. Nikos Kanelopoulos is a financial advisor. He came here 9 years ago to attend Columbia Business School. Although he left before the eurozone crisis hit, he claims Greece's political system sowed the seeds for this crisis long before it exploded.
As a Greek, I'm not blaming the Germans, the Austrians, the French, the British. I'm not blaming anybody. First of all, I'm blaming Greeks. I'm blaming myself for actually living into this system, growing into the system, not being able to do anything to make it better, and actually leaving my country for a better career.
For decades, New York has stood not only as that gateway to a better life, but also as the center of the financial world and its markets. But 4 years ago, Wall Street took a beating when the financial crisis exploded, first in America and then in Europe. And like in Europe, the U.S. government bailed out the banks, leaving people with a feeling of being sold out. Today, economists claim the U.S. economy is on its way to recovery, albeit a fragile one. While in Europe, the concern has gone from finances to growth, or rather the lack of it.
For several years, we were scared of a contagion effect in the financial markets, especially through the banking system. Today, it's a different phenomenon. It's European growth which is in danger. There's real suffering in Europe domestically, with a very high unemployment rate. So there's minimal risk for the US regarding trade and its exports to Europe. The United States is a closed economy, where domestic consumption and investments are the priority. So there could be a small shock in the US because of a slowdown in Europe's economy, but it's the opposite that's more worrisome. If the American economy goes into recession, we risk around a 0.2 to 0.3% decrease in growth in a eurozone which has already been hit hard by its internal crisis.
Richard Wolff teaches both about the U.S. and eurozone economic crises. He agrees that President Obama's priorities are domestic, with a fiscal cliff threatening to pull the U.S. back into recession if not resolved. But he warns that Obama should not ignore what is happening across the Atlantic.
Europe is the biggest economic power in the world. That's the irony. It doesn't play that role because of political reasons. If there's a major catastrophe in Europe, for whatever reason, if the Greeks finally break away and that leads to an impossible political storm in Italy, in Spain, in Portugal, in Ireland, and so on, that this changes everything. This could have an impact on the United States every bit as big or bigger than the so-called fiscal cliff. We don't know what's going to happen in Europe. We don't know how far China is slowing down. So the biggest fact right now in the United States, calculation of the economics establishment, right wing, left wing, and the middle, is utter and complete uncertainty.
During his election campaign, Obama pushed home the message that his stimulus plans pumped capital into the economy and created jobs. He also vowed to raise taxes on the rich.
Because top-down economics doesn't work. We don't need to double down.
And for Marilena Hatupi, who hopes to set up an art export business to Asia via Europe, it's this type of stimulus the eurozone needs right now.
The U.S. was in a very particular crisis in 2009, and Obama went forth and instated all these different reforms and basically produced a lot of cash flow so that the economy could be boosted in some way. I sometimes feel like the European Union should do the same thing and take a big leap and make some vast changes within the way that they approach their decision-making and the way, basically the way they create their measures. And maybe from then on, the impact will be greater, and then changes will actually start to come through.
The $80 billion U.S. car bailout is no doubt Obama's biggest economic success story. But it helped that the U.S. Federal Reserve could print the massive number of dollars needed and also devalue its currency. With Europe's austerity measures strangling growth, many wonder why the eurozone doesn't print more euros.
La différence entre l'Europe et les États-Unis.
The difference between Europe and the United States is that the US borrows in a currency that it prints, whereas all eurozone members borrow money that they can't print. So there are constraints, and the reason the US is out of the crisis is because it can print money. The Fed buys up part of the public debt. That's not the case in the eurozone.
While both EU and American politicians struggle with their respective fiscal and economic cliffs, Tommy Tantalouris says he and other Greek Americans are trying to help, even if it's just a small drop in the economic ocean.
They do more. They do a lot. They do a lot, but they're scared. I mean, where are they going to send? They send money down there. Where are they going to go? You know, they think they're going to eat it again. They're going to steal it. You know, they do food drives. They've done a lot of stuff. They've done a lot of stuff. It was great because we were sending Greek products back to them to feed them. Yeah, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Guy came in, he wanted donations. So I actually gave him Greek stuff to be shipped back to Greece.
If you ask the European leaders right now, where do you want this to go and how do you see this ending? Honestly, I don't think they can tell you because it seems like they have no strategy at all. They just want to keep on kicking the can down the road for as long as they can, hoping that something will happen. If the Americans actually manage to find a solution to their fiscal issues, then I think they will become even more aggressive towards the Europeans in finding a solution right away.
The next few weeks are deemed crucial for both the U.S. and EU economic landscapes. While Obama faces a fiscal cliff which could lead to tax increases and spending cuts, in Europe even tougher austerity is on the horizon. More uncertainty on both sides of the Atlantic.